We believe the Buckeyes will be back on the field in East Lansing to take on a Michigan State. There are all sorts of scenarios and qualifiers, as there always are, but of course it's 2020. We got Pat Murphy on the line from Bucknuts 247 Sports to help us break down the Buckeyes. Pat, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing just fine. So, of course, the Big Ten had allowed Illinois and Ohio State to hit the field last week. The Buckeyes and Gene Smith opted out of the game. But as we sit here on a Tuesday evening, it appears as though things, at least right now, are a full go with no additional positive tests.
Yes, we got word today that Ohio State was going to practice. Now, that is anyone who didn't test positive or wasn't considered a close contact. So the numbers are obviously less than they would be at full strength, and that includes head coach Ryan Day, who is only taking part in the virtual side of things, the meetings and whatnot. But not only is not at practice this week, but won't coach if there is a game on Saturday against Michigan State. So the Buckeyes numbers are certainly down. We don't know specifically what that looks like or what it could mean for Saturday in terms of who plays, who doesn't. But they are taking steps towards playing. They shut down the facility last week, starting on Friday, went through a deep cleaning and kind of all that process. And then actually on Monday, they allowed, which is typically a day off, they allowed players to come to workouts in small groups. My understanding was this was like lifting and things like that. So groups of 10 or so. So it wasn't anything game plan or any of that type of stuff, but it was a step in the right direction in terms of, hey, the facility's back open. And then today we got word from Ohio State. So, this is official that the plan was to practice, and now it's day by day. No new tests, but that doesn't mean something doesn't pop tomorrow or Thursday or whatnot. So definitely a step in the right direction, but you're still kind of playing the wait and see game here with what happens and if this is spreading anymore, if they've got it under control. The other Big Ten teams and most teams around the country who have had to cancel games because of an outbreak have missed 2 games, if not more. So Wisconsin missed 2 games earlier this year in the Big Ten, Maryland, Minnesota, all of those it's been 2 weeks. So if Ohio State is able to get this under control enough to play against Michigan State, that will be, a new precedent in a year that's been filled with those.
As soon as you set up the image for me of a weightlifting session, for example, and I'm sure that becomes much more complicated, much more stringent, so many more things that just have to be organized and so forth, just for guys to lift weights as opposed to what is normal. And this added layers of just protocols, guidelines, stipulations, health and safety standards that have to be attached to everything. Has there been any talk from Ryan Day, the coaches, the players, just about how much more difficult it's been just to practice, just to prepare for football games, just to be mentally prepared and physically prepared, and to be strategically prepared for these games?
You mean this week in particular, or just this season?
Just overall this season, how much more? Because to run a big-time football program, there's so much to do anyway. But then on top of that, there's this, I don't know, 20% more, 30% more that's just having to keep people separate and healthy and to meet guidelines.
Yes, definitely. That has been brought up periodically throughout the season. And, I think the approach that Ohio State's taken is, well, this is what everyone's going through. We just have to handle it better than others. And that's how we win on Saturdays. But there's no question it's changed things. I mean, if you've ever been to the Woody Hayes facility, Ohio State's practice facility, they've got a great weightlifting area and everything. I mean, world class. But a lot of that stuff has been moved out to their indoor practice field at times so they can space it out more and, have more room so that guys aren't, if you've been in any weight room, you're on top of each other with machines and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, that type of thing. They're not meeting in their normal meeting room this year, which doesn't sound like a big change, but again, they're using parts of the practice field and spreading out. And you're just in such a routine normally of a football player. And this year's really derailed that, starting back with no real spring practice and everything. But things like the meeting room, the weight room, it certainly has an effect. And not getting the normal, load or normal, routine, I think certainly plays a part. And it's, how much and how you handle it is up to each player and each team. But yeah, it has not been easy to get this season going and get it in and doing all the things that football players need to do in order to play on Saturdays. So, credit to anyone, not just Ohio State, but any program that's been able to figure it out enough to get games in, and, especially the ones who have had, 9, 10 games at this point.